vampires are often said to be the kings of the night, that shadows and darkness are our domain, and we are unrivaled in it, as well as bound to it. And that is partly true. During the night we are kings, but there is a clan that excels when they are within darkness. A clan that truly understands what it means to be the one within the shadow. A clan that all know and fear. Clan Lasombra. See, they have a certain power over the dark, power over shadows. I'll go more into the details of what they can do later, but we creatures of the night cannot avoid this. We are always weak to it, and the Lasombra thrive on that. They adore the power this gives them. See, Lasombra are a high clan, one of the elites of the night. Many view themselves as aristocrats and nobility, and yet they are part of the Sabbat, or at least most of them are. We'll get more on that later, but they are some of the most violent and sadistic of our kind, while stating how noble they are. See, like the Ventrue, they strive for power and status. They strive to be above the rabble. But unlike the Ventrue, they barely care about keeping it. The chase and strive for power is all that matters. Getting temporary power through tyranny is their usual modus operandi. Unlike the Ventrue, who want prestige to be earned, the Lasombra want it all, and they do not care how they get it. The reason I state all of that is because a large group of Lasombra have recently joined the Camarilla. They have swapped sides, so to speak, and some people are starting to think that they are going to rival, and perhaps even overtake the Ventrue. They are going to become prominent members of the Camarilla, I'm sure, but overtaking the Ventrue will never happen, for one major reason. They are inherently self-destructive. Something about their nature secretly craves death, like a comic book villain who wants to be caught. But to understand why that is, you need to understand where exactly their unique power comes from. See, in essence, they are a very magical clan, almost like the Tremere, but instead of blood magic, it is shadow magic, or oblivion, as they call it. It is the power to thin the walls of life and death. In fact, death magic is another good term for it, and that shows perfectly in its other form of manifesting, necromancy. But the Lasombra are not necromancers. They do not summon or command the dead. Other clans have that domain. But what they do control is shadow and darkness. They manipulate the void that is death. They pierce the veil, so to speak. Their power comes from death. In fact, it is even said that when they are embraced, not all of them comes back. A part of them stays whatever is after this life, and those parts long to reunite. This is one of the many reasons why so many kindred are afraid of them and their power. For many can just kill you and send you to the beyond, but the Lasombra truly know what it means to be there and delight in it. They torture what is left of your soul for all eternity, simply because they enjoy it. And that part I stated earlier about not all of them truly coming back might play a part in their clan bane. See, you have probably heard in many myths that vampires cannot appear in mirrors or other reflections, and this myth comes from the Lasombra, but it's a little more complicated than that. It's not just reflections, but anything that would capture their image. Even the oldest of their kind cannot appear in a hand-drawn painting. And it's not so that they aren't there, it's more so something about them is wrong. If you were to take a photo or a video of them, they might appear as if a shadow eclipses them fully, or as if something has scratched them out by hand, despite that not being possible, because part of them is truly not there. And the last thing I'd like to note of their culture is how they shape things to fit them. The best example of this is how they choose a candidate to embrace, as it's quite unlike everyone else. See, they will go out of their way to find someone who is worthless, someone who would have no use as a kindred, let alone a Lasombra. They would kidnap and torture them with some of the most vile ways imaginable in order to break them so that they can remold them. The goal is to shatter them so fully that nothing of the original person remains, so that they have complete control over the person they remold. Only then would they embrace them. With a clan such as Lasombra, it is no surprise that their history is as fascinating as it is, and so I shall begin where I always do, with their antediluvian. I'm just going to call him Lasombra for simplicity's sake, for he had many names, and I do mean many, almost 200 in fact. And so to dumb it down a little, I'm going to use the name of his clan, for that is said to be the last one he used. Little is known about his time while within the first city of Cain, other than the fact he made himself a rival of the Ventru antediluvian, a returning theme you'll find, but what is known is what he did during the flood, or rather what he didn't. See, unlike most other antediluvians who fled as the waves took the city, he stayed, allowing the waters to take him. They pulled him into the deep of the ocean, where he remained for a long time, till the Bronze Age in fact, where the sea peoples emerged and raided the coast of the known world. Turns out they were led by Lasombra himself, who shut himself off from most of the world and secluded himself on an island, where he did not interact with the world at large. Until the time of the Roman Empire, mostly led by the Ventru, he unwillingly fell in line, as all had to, but he soon used his power and influence to claim both Spain and southern Italy, mostly just Sicily in truth, where he built what is now known as the Castle of Shadow, a location that deserves a story of its own. After the fall of Rome, little is said about what he got up to. He went into hiding, as did all antediluvians by this point, until the First Inquisition, where he enters the scene again, for according to most, this is where he died. See, during this time, Lasombra clan had formed the first Anarch group. They are solely responsible for its creation, in fact, but this group would later become the Sabbat, and this is where they hammered in their religious identity. See, historically, members of Clan Lasombra would use religion to gain power. In fact, some think their overzealousness is what led to the First Inquisition to begin with, and this became even more cemented during the Anarch Revolt. After this, separating the Lasombra from their religious identity became impossible. This is where it became part of their culture. In fact, it doesn't really matter which religion, it is just a tool to them, but it is their favorite tool, one they have grown so fond of. Anyway, back to the fate of their antediluvian. See, many of the Sabbat-to-be, so to speak, really started to hate the elders of their kind, and upon learning that their antediluvian was still around, they sought to hunt him down and destroy him. It is said they stormed his palace and diablerized him. But the thing that disturbed all who bore witness, supposedly, he had a smile on his face the whole time. Despite going through the worst pain one could imagine, he was happy. What happened to the one that diablerized him, by the way, is unknown. There is another tale of his fate, however, one that is not as commonly believed. Some say he learned of the plot to consume him, and combined with all the other things that was going on at the time, he decided to flee into the ocean. He found the deepest point at the bottom of the sea and entered torpor, where he remains to this day. The last thing I need to note of their history is a more recent event, them turning sides from the Sabbat they founded into the Camarilla. I should note that although this is a clan-wide movement, it is not in fact all of them, a little under half in fact, but why it's worth noting is that some of the eldest most of their kind have decided to do so, and they were given an ultimatum by the Camarilla. For every elder we accept, you must give us another. And they went along with it. They portrayed their own, and I have no doubt in my mind that many elders of all clans within the Camarilla now have some access to their power. But for most of the younger Lasombra, they were accepted with open arms. Much of their culture lends itself well to Camarilla life, and dare say it, better than Sabbat life did. But what is it about the Lasombra's powers that scare everyone so much? Well, I think it is finally time I went into them in detail, for they have the disciplines of Dominate, Potence, and of course Oblivion. And so I shall start with the more terrifying power, Oblivion, also known as Shadow Magic or Death Magic, is a very rare discipline. It is quite hard to learn from what I've been told. It also manifests differently depending on the clan using it. Many use it in forms like necromancy, but the Lasombra learn to use its more shadowy nature. They are capable of moving shadows around them, including their own. In fact, they can remold their own and even attack things with it independently. They can eclipse people in pure darkness, making them unable to breathe. Although it is not a problem for kindred, it is for most. Some can even teleport between shadows, darting like a bolt of darkness from corner to corner, and some can sap at your very soul, damaging everything to its very core, including ghosts. I have only met the current Lasombra Primogen once. Her name is Belladonna, and she actually elicited fear in me for but a moment. While intimidating an anarch, she made the very room we were in enter pure darkness. The walls were gone, color and feeling were empty. I lost all of my senses. I couldn't smell, I couldn't taste, or even feel. It was as if the void itself had grasped us for but a moment. And then she ended it instantly, smiled at me, and offered to have drinks later. And that was the moment that instilled fear in me. Not the power, I was expecting it, nor the drinks, those were lovely in fact, but that it meant nothing to her. That lingering darkness that even the most supernaturally powerful beings would be shattered by. And it was simply a part of her nature. She could turn it on or off like it was nothing. But they of course have other powers at their disposal. The one they probably use the most, in fact, is Dominate. They are hardly the masters of it that the Ventrue are, but the sheer frequency in which they use it is actually quite surprising. Sometimes they use it when it's not even needed. A Lasombra might use Dominate on someone to transfer a message over, when they would have been more than willing to do it already. During the phase in which the Lasombra were being introduced into the Camarilla, many were newly embraced in order to buff up their numbers. I had to accommodate some of their younger ones. We were heading to a nightclub owned by a Toreador, and they used it constantly. One of them would use Dominate to make everyone compliment them. Another just made sure everyone left them alone, at least that one I could partly understand. But the one that really annoyed me was the one that went to the bar in order to get drinks for show, and used Dominate on the bartender, Why would you do it there? That's his job. He was going to do it anyway. Ugh. I think what it is the Lasombra, unlike the Ventru, actually get a kick out of commanding others. And lastly, they have potence, the strength discipline, and combined with their other shadowy powers, this makes them quite formidable in fights, as you would imagine. When a fight would break out, having a Lasombra by your side would be very beneficial. Though they do not make the best foot soldiers, one skilled and trained Lasombra could easily take on 3 of another clan. And that is partly because they play dirty. You're not getting a fair fight with a Lasombra. You're going to have one in the shadows go unseen, teleport behind you, and even punch a hole through your chest. In fact, they are edgy enough to say something like, "It's nothing personal, kid," afterwards. I laugh, but they truly are a formidable clan. A respectable one that strives for great heights. They will do anything to achieve them, but will almost always fall just in the end, like a tragedy falling before your own eyes. Their own self-destructive nature, combined with the fact that they will commonly betray each other for a short boon. But regardless of where they actually end up, they are always the ones with a smile on their face when the curtain closes. Thank you for listening to my tales. I'm the Ashspawn. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But, till next time, fellow traveler, have a good day.